Hello everyone. So for this week we're going to be covering variables and like terms and expressions and just kind of working with basic expressions. Not going to be doing equations yet. Really basic algebra. All right, so first I want to talk about what a variable is. So a variable is just a letter used to represent, an unknown or a changing number. Right, so something really important to remember, all variables are numbers, right? That's something I think, it's a weird concept to grasp, but that's just something you have to remember. Whenever you see a variable, just remember it's a number. We just don't know the number yet. Or maybe the number is always changing, or we have to figure it out, right? So just remember it's a number. We just don't know what the number is. Okay, so usually X, Y, A, and B are the most common variables we use, but really any letter can be a variable. So you can use any letter you want to represent your variable. So maybe you're like, I'm trying to figure out how many notes I need. I'm going to use the letter N for notes or whatever, something like that. Right, so you can use whatever letter, but these are the most common ones you're going to see throughout this quarter, especially X, throughout all of algebra and just math in general. They just love their variable being X. Okay? So an expression is just a pattern of numbers written as math operations. Right, so if you don't remember, math operation is just like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Okay? So for example, we might have the variable x, right? And then we can make it an expression by saying the number x plus 6, right? And so depending on what x is, it's going to change your total number, right? You always add 6 to whatever your unknown number x is once you figure it out. Another one, you could say 5x, and if you remember multiplication, we use a dot. You can actually just, when it comes to variables, if you want to represent multiplication, you can just say 5x, like right next to each other, and we know that that means 5 times x, right? So you don't have to actually write that little dot when it comes to using variables. But if you're gonna like use just numbers, you need to have that dot, or else if you don't have the dot, then it just looks like the number 53, right? Not the same thing. But because it's really clear here, we don't have to actually write that dot. You can if you want to though, or you could even write it like 5 times x, right? Or 5 times x. Also, good idea to make sure your 5 looks like a 5 and not an S, right? Because now that we're doing variables, we want to make sure our numbers look like numbers and our letters look like letters, so we know if we're dealing with an unknown number or a known number. Again, it can be any kind of number, so you could have 2 times the variable a plus 5 divided by the variable b or something. Sorry, see, I'm not good at making my 5s looks like 5s. Right, so this is an expression, it's a pattern. It's always, so the pattern here is that we're always adding 6, or we're always multiplying 5, or we're always multiplying this variable by 2 and then adding it to 5 divided by our other variable, right? So it's a pattern. You're doing the same thing consistently all the time to a number, even though you don't know what that number is yet. Okay, so an example of like expressions that we use in daily life would be like rent, like budgeting. Budgeting is really just basic patterns and expressions, and it's basic algebra, really, right? So let's say I'm going to make it really simple, just say your income is $1,000 per month. Right, so that means every month I get $1,000. Right, so this is something that never changes. Right, and then, but something that does change is how long I work at this job. Right, so we can make a variable that's the number of months that we work. Right, and that would be X, or you could use the letter M. You can use whatever letter you want, but I'm always going to use X. Right, the number of months that you worked, and it changes, right? So I want to know how much money I make over time. I can represent this as an expression, right? I know every month I get $1,000, and if I multiply it by how many months that I've worked at this job, I can figure out how much money I make over a set amount of time. Right, so this is my expression right here. Right, this one here is my variable. Right, because it changes. Maybe I only work this job for 2 months. Maybe I work this job for 12 months. Maybe I'm trying to figure out how long do I need to work at this job so that I can save up a certain amount of money, right, for a new car or whatever it is. PlayStation, I don't know, something, right? So I'm trying to figure out how many months do I need to work here to save up for whatever it is I want to save up for. Right, so I know this expression, so I can figure out like, oh, if I work, let's say I work 6 months, right, then over 6 months, I would make $6,000. Right, so because now I know the month, my variable is now known, it's no longer unknown, so I can just plug this 6 into the X, right, because X represents the number of months worked, and I can figure out how much I make over 6 months. Maybe I work 12 months, right, a whole year. This time I'm going to plug 12 into my variable. Right, so I get $12,000 if I work a whole year at this one place. Right, so maybe I'm trying to save for a car. Maybe I want a brand new car. It costs $15,000. So I try to figure out how many months. So that would be 15 months, right? We're not going to get into solving equations yet, though. We're just looking at the pattern. Right, we can see the more time we work, the more money we make, so on and so forth, right? And this isn't even accounting for bills. Just ignore the bills. We're making it really simple right now, right? But you can see the X represents that variable that's changing, right? And the constant, this is what we call a constant, the $1,000 per month. That's something that never changes, right? Unless you get a raise at some point. For the most part, this is a constant. You always get $1,000 per month. In this really simple example, we always get $1,000 per month. That's constant, it never changes. What changes is how many months we work at this job, and then we can figure out based on the constant and by plugging in different numbers into our variable how much we might make over different amounts of time.